Hello and welcome everybody to the latest episode of the Viking Chats, and I am over the moon to be joined today by the lovely, demure and softly spoken Amy Shields.
Wow, softly spoken. Not had that one before. Is that true?
Always got to give people a little something to question and react to. How are you, babes?
I'm good. Softly spoken. No, absolutely not.
Good.
Outspoken.
There we go.
There we go.
That's more like it. So, Ames, you and I have known each other for probably about 3 years now?
No, double that. I'd say 6.
Close!
Yes, we met for the first time in person at EA Masters 2019.
Oh, fuck, yeah, 6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
As you've gathered, swearing is allowed on this podcast.
Excellent.
We
Good to
tick
know.
the explicit content box when we publish. Look, thanks for coming down to me today. So hopefully we're going to bounce around on a few topics, but we'll kind of see where we go. So I wanted to first of all start off talking a little bit about your career, and we'll keep this bit very brief, your career as an agent, and then how you found that journey moving into the supplier side, because obviously that's kind of the world that I inhabit, although I wear both hats at the same time. But yeah, I think there's some really interesting takeaways about what that journey is and what those insights it gives you, having kind of been on both sides of the coin. So we'll have, a bit of a chinwag about that. I definitely want to have a chat with you about the Women in Estate Agency, your involvement to date, where it's come from, and kind of what, I know it's early doors yet, but what kind of things we might be looking to expect for next year. I'm pretty sure Toby Martin said something about a marching band doing acrobatics with lasers.
Yeah.
And, if they're not there, I'm
and
already
the board members
disappointed.
doing that as well. So
I mean, sure, let's add in that dimension. You heard it here first. Verona, I know you're away right now, but you better get that marching band practice in right now. So we'll have a bit of a chat about Women in Estate Agency, the journey so far, because I know tickets are about a month off launching.
Yep,
They're thereabouts.
Yep.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about other bits and pieces. We're going to get onto the delectable, technical, and thoroughly enjoyable topic of compliance.
Well, let's do it.
It's our bag. So we're going
It's
to...
absolutely not boring.
Just
dispel that myth.
Not at all. So we're going to throw most of this stuff in here. We'll bounce around. We'll do some bits and pieces, and hopefully got some interesting stuff for our listeners. So, Ames, talk to me. So, your previous life as an estate agent, how long were you in agency for?
That was very Chris Watkin. Talk to me. Talk to me. So I was in agency for 16 years. So now 21 years in the property world in total. Started in 2004. It was a really interesting time actually for me, because firstly I was going through obviously coming out and finding myself. Hate the term coming out, by the way, it's a bit of a weird one. And then
coming out.
Yeah, I mean, just want to break into song. And then I was really confused because I have a degree in film, and I was working for a TV production company in Soho, literally on Soho Square, living the dream, filming videos for the likes of Citroen, Harrods, British Airways, living the life, and it wasn't floating my boat, and it just wasn't ticking a box in my heart, and I didn't love it.
I mean, this doesn't sound massively dissimilar to my journey with acting.
Yeah, so it was
didn't
what I
quite
did.
measure up to the dream.
No, and it's a very one thing studying film at university and writing essays about James Bond and having great times, and then actually putting it into reality. It's like, okay, this is fun, but is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Where's this going?
And I think that anything in the arts, anything arts orientated, before it becomes a profession, it's a very different undertaking. The moment it becomes a profession, I know for me, with the acting thing, as weird as it sounds, and I've talked about this before, I never considered the professional reality of being an actor, but I loved being an amateur actor. And that's what made me fall in love with it. And then, did all the training, came out, and then got confronted with the reality of of what acting was, and almost instantly was like, what the fuck was I thinking? So I think I think the arts is always a tricky one. Turning the arts into something commercially viable, where you can earn all right money, where you're not expected to work the most insane hours on in the universe.
Yeah, sitting in edit suites at 3 a.m. was...
And have some sort of reliable source of work and income, you know, I think is a challenge. So yeah, and interesting. So I mean, so you were really having kind of that experience around the same time that I first got into agency, because you got into agency around the year we launched Base, which was only 18 months after I started being an estate and letting agent. So what I always find this fascinating, because I think most people's stories, with the exceptions of people who kind of start it as like a weekend junior job or it's a family business, most of the people I know, and particularly most of the people who kind of have excelled in agency, have kind of fallen into it and then discovered this passion for it. So if you can remember, because it's obviously so different, like much like it was for acting, what initially kind of attracted you to agency?
I remember it explicitly well, because it's one of those aha moments in life. And I was sat in Soho Square on my lunch break, because I worked in the production side of things, so I was...
Oh, I know Soho Square well. I used to run a club on Dean Street, and loads of you guys, post-production guys, used to come for lock-ins in my bar.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So don't trash
I'm smashing up the set. But now you can see, it's not CGI. This is real.
It's
As
definitely
is this.
real. So yeah, I was sat in Soho Square on my lunch, and I'd spoken to several people about, I'm not sure this is for me. I was terrified of telling my parents, because obviously I'd gone through university, and that's a bit of an awkward conversation to have. Is actually like, I'm going to massively U-turn and not have a career in what I've just spent 4 years of my life
I remember
studying.
I was terrified with that. I mean, can you imagine after my dad putting me through very expensive private boarding school education, being like, by the way, Dad, not going to go and do something kind of academic driven. First of all, I'm going to be an actor. So I first of all had to convince him that was the right career path after 10 years of very expensive education. Yeah. And then to turn around, did a 3-year course. I think within 6 to 9 months, I was like, absolutely not.
I mean, you would have fitted, I'm quite surprised you didn't go for the casting of the Vikings.
Wasn't it? None of that stuff had hit yet.
No, but you should have
I was kind of like, if I'd been like 5-10 years later, I probably would have been caught up in all of that, and I'd like to think I'd have been a shoe-in for a lot of castings.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was pre all like Thor with Marvel and Vikings and all that sort of fun and shenanigans. So who knows? I mean, could have been a very, very different story. Interestingly, one of my mates from school, not drama college, has ended up being a crazy successful stuntman. Okay. So he ended up becoming like a martial arts expert, has now ended up being an expert stuntman. His film resume is insane. He's done everything from like Mad Max to Game of Thrones. Wow. I mean, Gladiator 2, you name it. You think of any major action movie or series that has come out in like the last 15 years, I can almost guarantee you he's been in it. So it's fascinating. But yeah, anyway, I digress. As we do on these chats.
I mean, it's all about the stunts. So I sat in Soho Square, and I'd spoken to a few people, and obviously my dad was a salesman and a sales director, and
in what field?
Sales. So way before digital times, shock horror, he sold the recording tape that was used for television and recording studios for music. So the tape that was, literally recorded the music. And he worked for a huge company that worked across the US and the UK.
Was that BASF or something like that?
Ampex.
I'm trying to sound knowledgeable.
They supplied the tape for the Abbey Road Studios. Yeah. So that's quite cool. I kind of felt like, okay, is the tick box that I'm missing like sales, or am I missing that buzz from selling something? So I started then thinking, okay, houses, cars. Those were the two things I kind of had another interest in. Loved cars. all right, go sell cars. That'd be quite good fun.
Big ticket items. Yeah.
And then houses was the other one. And I just started then
Neither
making
of which
calls.
required any official or effective like certification or training or qualifications.
Although interestingly, so one of the calls I made was to Romans, and I got put straight through to who was then the HR manager, director lady. Had a lovely conversation with her on the phone, and as soon as she found out I had a degree, she was literally like, "When can you come in?" I was like, "Okay." So I had an interview in the Reading office. Met the branch manager was hauled up to the HR because HR were above the Reading office at that point. Met John, and they instantly literally offered the job and like, "When can you start?" And it was like, "Okay, interesting." And then I kind of just went with it, went with the flow. My parents at that point obviously were then told and were horrified, but they were like, "Okay, you've got to follow your heart. You've got to do what you want to do." And the next thing I knew, I was sat on a desk in Romans in Reading.
Did you get a little bit from your salesy dad being like, "That's my girl, into the world of sales"?
No, my dad was more annoyed with me than my mum.
Interesting.
Because his contacts had landed me the job in Soho. So he was... Yeah, which I really appreciated. I spent my whole teenage years trawling around the BBC, recording studios, ITV with my dad. Whenever I sort of had the day off school, let's go do that, and it was great fun as a kid. But it just didn't float my boat in career wise. And then as soon as I started, it was instant. It was this instant love of oh wow, I love this. This is exciting. I'm learning something new every day. I'm talking to people every day.
I remember that. It was fun and easy.
Buzz.
Like, not easy per se, but you could just throw yourself into it. You didn't need to get too bogged down in technicalities.
I'd love to go back to doing viewings. Like, oh my God, I'll just
So this is something people still find weird. When I talk to people and people find out that Anne and I still, Anne does almost all of our valuations, but that we go out on valuations and we still go on viewings. And I find it really funny when people are like, "You still go on viewings?" And I'm like, "Are you shitting me?" I'm like,
bit of the job.
"That's literally why I fell in love with the job. I love meeting people. I love finding people at home."
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm almost mystified when people are like, "Really? You still do that?" I'm like, I'd happily just do that. I'd happily stay at home and just have the business run itself and be like, "Okay, viewings tonight, cool, I'll be there." I always find it interesting. Some people are desperate to get away with that, but no, absolutely.
You catch yourself doing viewings, or second viewings certainly, like 8 o'clock at night, because you were that buzzing to get the sale and that offer in that following morning, and you're like, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll meet you there at 8 o'clock tonight," and you'd go home, have dinner, and then go back out again to work your Saturdays off. It didn't matter.
Yeah, I'm sure when you started, it was probably crappy basic salary, okay commission structure, but not amazing enough to kind of tempt you and motivate you. I know with me, I was given 2 choices when I started my first agency job. I could have 10 grand basic with 10% commission or 20% commission only. And I very quickly did some figures and was like, "Yeah, I'll take the 20% commission only, thank you." And it's really funny talking to people because they're like, "Well, that was risky." And I'm like, "Not really, because a 10 grand basic is what, like £800 a month before tax." And I think back then you'd only pay a tiny bit of tax now, 'cause I think that was just over your untaxed threshold. But I was like, £800, £700 a month in my pocket wasn't exactly making me sleep well at night.
Interesting, instantly earning more money than I was in TV. So because of that commission, it just it was amazing. And I timed the market perfectly, because obviously in 2004 when I started, the market was on the up. Then we had the kind of 2006 boom, and it was oh wow.
Yeah, 2004 to kind of 2007 was kind of halcyon.
And I bought my first
property market.
then.
particularly London was mental by then.
Yeah, I got on the property ladder really quickly in 2006.
Very clever.
And just because the first thing you want to do, you start selling houses, the first thing you want to do is buy one yourself, right? So that happened. And then, I couldn't get enough of it. And I just knew that was, the property world was that was it.
And so how long were you with Romans then?
12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you started, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
So that was
a long time.
pretty much your entire agency career, or not?
Not quite. Then I did 4 years with a company called Davis Tate, who are in
Part
Berkshire and
of
Oxfordshire.
LSL?
Yeah,
Is that
LSLI.
right? LSLI, yeah.
Not anymore though, because obviously that's since changed as well. But that was great, and that was very different. So I went from Romans to Davis Tate. And Davis Tate, I went to sort of a village office with some seriously expensive houses going on, and it was a great opportunity to work with an agent that was a lot more worked a lot more on sort of customer recommendations, and had less stock, but really focused and drilled down on really good marketing. And not the Romans didn't have really good marketing,
Higher success
but it was
rate.
like it was the sort of more expensive properties, and 1 minute I was valuing
Fewer
3 bed
transactions,
semis.
more money per transaction.
But then I
really,
was in 3, 4, £5 million country houses.
Yeah.
5,000 square foot, 2 acres of land, swimming pool, tennis court, and it was just that. I really enjoyed working sort of as an agent, that last bit of my agency career in that sort of prime.
I bet. I think for most, maybe it's a generalisation, but I think for a lot of agents, they aspire to work in markets like that. But I think some of them feel like either it's out of reach, or they're concerned that like dealing in that area of the market's going to be quite difficult because the perception of what people with money can be like, and that's not an unjust concern.
No, but it was great. There's a lot more chain building and a lot more off-market chain building in that area. It was, you would literally, the locals would be waiting for something to come up, and when you got that value, you'd be then arranging. It was a lot more, off-market, building chains. The longest chain I did completely solely within our office was 5 properties.
Oh, I had an 8
all in
property
one.
chain once.
And that was, I didn't sleep for
probably one of the
6
many
months.
reasons I was very keen to never do sales.
Yeah, it was a lot. But it was amazing. And then when it happened, it all completed. That was insane.
Yeah.
But it was very much more a sort of find that person the right house, more than sort of wait for the properties to come and then find the right people.
So you did your 16 years in agency, which I think, any profession you spend that sort of time in, you get a really good understanding of what's under the bonnet and what motivates sellers and how to drive and motivate teams and stuff. So, excuse me. So what then made you think, or did this happen by accident? What then made you think, do you know what? I kind of want to stay in this wheelhouse, but maybe it's time for something a little bit different. And was that a conscious move, or was it just exploring the next option and moving into the supplier place kind of presented itself?
It was a very conscious move. I just felt, I think like a lot of people, when you're a branch manager, and I'd been a branch manager at that point for nearly 10 years.
Wow. Yeah,
it was, and it's like, what next? Now, someone like at Romans, and even in Davis Tate to a point, the next jump up is very obviously an area director and overseeing, or a senior manager and overseeing several offices. And was always in my head what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then when it kind of got there and my career got to that point where it's like, okay, I'm going to seriously start thinking about this and putting feelers out, I didn't want to do it.
Because you step back from all the things you love. You no longer do viewings, you no longer do valuations, you drive around on the road taking people up on numbers.
And dealing with spreadsheets all day long.
Why haven't you done enough phone calls today? Why did you do enough viewings yesterday?
And I think when you're in an agency, this is going to sound terrible, and I apologise to all the area directors out there.
She doesn't apologise at all, she means every word of it.
But when you're a branch manager, your area director is the person you dread walking through your front door or office door, and because they tended to be, this is going to sound terrible, I called them the fun sponges. Because you suddenly had to, all your staff were like, and the fun stopped in the office, which is what made agency so great back then. I didn't want to be that person.
I think what's really interesting about this kind of topic of conversation is quite often, and I had a chat with Wendy Petermans about this the other day, running family agency, and for us, running smaller independent kind of boutique agencies. There's this perception that career progression is kind of limited because you work within a small business or it's family owned, so family at the top and everyone else below, whatever. And there's this perception that if you want that career progression, the only place you're going to find it is in corporate. And I kind of understand the logic to it, but it's really interesting you giving your shape on it, because you were a good performing member of staff. That still didn't stop you getting stuck in a position for 10 years, and that's a long time to be. I mean, I would say really anything above 3 years, you kind of want to still be seeing some sort of movement, whether that's helping launch a new office or whatever.
And that was interesting. That's a good point.
So that's really interesting.
I didn't know, some people in my life were saying, start your own agency. Like, go for it. Now, bear in mind, this is way before all the kind of self-employed brokerage models were even being spoken about.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm lying. I think Russell Quirks might have been around at that point.
But that still wasn't the broker thing. He was just doing eMove alongside Purple Bricks and all that.
Yeah, Purple Bricks had kind of just launched. But I was at that point where I was like, I've never been or aspired to be a business owner. I kind of still, and I know I do, I still sometimes need that kick up the butt or that person to go to.
But we can't all be business owners. I always find this topic of conversation fascinating. We can't all be business owners, because then who the fuck works for us?
And I didn't want to be that business.
As a business owner, you need superstars. You need your rock stars.
And the thought of doing all the VAT stuff and the company's house stuff, I was like, nah, just let me do what I love doing.
And even then, you need to frame it. Like I couldn't be an entrepreneur without Anne. And equally, she couldn't. She could probably be. She's more equipped to probably be it than I am. In that she's great at the really technical, detailed, essential day-to-day accounts tracking. The stuff that actually runs a business. Whereas I'm really good at the flowery shit of what the logo looks like in marketing.
I'm going to say something else. It's a bit of a bold statement, but salespeople hate admin.
Yeah. Although Anne was an amazing salesperson. I mean,
she's a rare blend.
Yeah, she is a weird and wonderful one. I've never seen someone close deals the way that woman does. But yeah, I think it's look, not everyone can be a business owner. I think you hear a phrase tossed around now quite a bit, which is intrapreneurs, which I think is really cool. It's about people who have a business mindset, but they don't want that responsibility. But where they thrive is being within a business where they've got input and say on how the business grows, how the team develops, your culture, your whatever, how the business develops as a business without worrying about you being responsible for whether people get paid this month or not.
Yeah, exactly. Like growth nails it on the head for me. Like, it was always an agency. I was always looking at my pie charts, with the market share, and it still is, it's warfare, right? So, if you dip below your competitor,
you're not competitive, are you? You're not competitive.
Just a teeny bit. But growth is a big thing, and it's sort of like, even now, as a director of a business, I do get bogged down, obviously, with some of the admin, spreadsheet, strategic bits that I do now enjoy. Maybe I'm a bit older and I enjoy sort of sitting down and spending a couple of hours just working on a strategy, doing some, work on the partnerships that we've got, etc., etc. But what really gets my blood pumping is when I'm actually back on the front line selling, when I'm at events talking to agents. That's what makes my heart sing still. So what I do now is this perfect blend of, I lead a team. I oversee the sales team and the account management team where I'm now, and that's awesome because it's the hunter-gathering and the farming side of it, which I love, because it's great getting customers, but you've got to keep them happy, right?
Yeah.
And then I also get to learn.
But you've got the secret sauce, right?
Running.
You've got the secret sauce, and that's I think the great thing being a supplier, having been in agency, is you genuinely get it. You understand. Why agents say things, whether they legitimately mean it because your product's not good or whether it's a fob off. You understand what agents generally get frustrated with in terms of how they're pitched a product and whether that pitch matches reality. being sold the dream. I'd say that is probably, I would say, still the number one irk I hear whenever I talk to agents is what they're pitched versus what they're given. The disparity is huge. I think if you use it right, I think it is a bit of a superpower.
Yeah, and it's having that perfect blend, and I think I love, one thing that really makes me very happy is seeing my team achieve and succeed. And I think that, as a leader, there is nothing better than getting a message from one of my team saying, I've just closed this one. And it's like, yes! you feed off their passion for it.
I can see I can see the tingle in your eyes as you're talking about it. So I know the excitement's
and
real.
And I'm going to say this, I have the most incredible team right now, and I could not feel more grateful for that, because their work ethic, the way they motivate me, like if I'm having a bad day, we still every single day have a meeting every morning without fail on Teams, because obviously everyone's remote. I've got a couple of people now at head office, but majority are remote. But every day we have that huddle, because I need it as much as they do. I need that pick me up, that team drive, okay, we've got this, guys, what's going on today?
I think it's really interesting that you talk about that two-way dynamic, because I think that is something that often gets lost, and I think this is at times something that we've struggled with in base, is that dynamic has been too one-sided, too much is expected from top down. And it really is that two-way street. It really is that two-way conversation of bouncing ideas around and feedback and lifting each other up, and like you said, occasionally giving each other a boot up the arse, and calling out stuff and applauding stuff, and it really works well when it is a completely fluid two-way process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very fortunate that I've got a flipping awesome team right now. But, when someone's having a tough time, which we've all gone, through ups and downs in our lives, what's great is, we're all humans, we all pick up, we all know when someone's going through a bit of a crappy time in their life. And if someone is on the team, the rest of the team just get right underneath them. Okay, how can I help? Do you want me to do that meeting for you today? Do you want me to make those phone calls for you today? That to me just is everything, that team camaraderie. Yes, they've got their own individual targets that they've got to hit every month. They only have one to hit a month. I'm very clear cut, one target. I don't even like the
So you've got the one target individual, but do you also have team or group or company targets?
Yeah, then we have a team target, which is basically all of the individuals added together. We keep it so simple.
This is something really interesting. I was chatting to someone today. I won't say they were. We were chatting about something today. They were showing me something, a product they're working on, and we got onto the topic of commission and remuneration within agency, and they were like, oh, but you probably do what every agent does, right? You pay for this, you pay for that, you pay for that, you pay for this. And we were like, no. I've always been quite outspoken about it. I think a lot of the commissions, and I think a lot of the things that are attributed to, breed and drive some of the biggest problems we have in agency. I mean, I think the perfect example is listings. People who are paid to on the booking of a valuation and on the securing of a listing, but not on achieving exchange, achieving completion, and those being tied into how close you get to the price or over the price, what fee you're generating.
Like that to me is mind-boggling as the director of the team, to have to go through all of those figures and work out then commissions, pays. Like, that's just mind-blowing to me. Like, I just think it's such a waste of someone's time working all that. I know it's sort of
particularly then you go over to lettings, which is generally quite clean in terms of deals, but then you have clawbacks, right? So you have early terminations and people breaking, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that works with the Renters' Rights Bill going ahead, because periodic tenancies, nothing more than a 3-month term guaranteed. I'm fascinated to see how a lot of these agencies are going to pivot their commission structure. Yeah. Are they going to pay monthly commission? Are they going to keep the same kind of structure of paying 6 or 12 months commission, but then if that tenant leaves, you've got to pay it back? Yeah. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. But I think, the one thing I say to him is I don't micromanage unless someone gets put on a PIP, fine. If we've got to go performance management route, that happens. It's one of those things in life. That's different. but generally hit that target, and I don't really care how you do it.
Yeah, like you said, as a team,
not-
as long as you're achieving.
Yeah,
I think we try and encourage the team,
Yeah.
like you said, to self-support, but also kind of to self-discipline themselves as well. Like, you know, we've said to the team that if 4 of you feel like you're carrying a 5th person, you shouldn't need to bring that to us.
No,
You
absolutely.
should be able to sit down, whether you have a chat in the office, or you all go for a beer after work and go, listen, dude, we've all been talking and
yeah. And
X, Y,
fundamentally,
Z.
usually when that happens, there's something going on in outside of work that's
Yeah.
affecting their performance. And
which
the
then
team
comes
gets
out, and then everyone's like, oh my fucking God, why didn't you say something?
Exactly.
So cool. Well, look, I think we've covered that bit, and I think that's really interesting. Like I said, I think, you know, there's some really interesting businesses out there, whether they're started by former agents or whether their growth and development is driven by former agents. I think, you know, the signs are that you kind of have a bit of an unfair advantage, because you understand the reality of the market, of what you're selling into, typically the pressures within that business, the pain points, you know, the things that you can sell into, but the things that are also going to be your roadblocks. And yeah, absolutely. I think regardless of what field you work in, I think anything that brings the focus of your team and culture to delivering results together, like you said, you can still have some personal measuring in there, but I've always been an advocate of, as long as the team delivers what we want to achieve as a company objective, and they're all more or less happy with what they've all contributed to that, then I'm much happier with that than having one superstar on the team who is delivering 80% of that, but then resents the other 4, and the other 4 feel they're crushed by this impossible beast that they can't somehow topple. So let us move on now to the hyper sexy, super interesting and new. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a Hollywood blockbuster coming out any day now called Compliance. So
wish there was.
Yeah.
I'd watch it.
So yeah, I don't think there'd be many more people than you, me, and a handful of some other geeks there being like, oh yeah, cool. So Compliance. So you came out of agency. Now, really interesting. You talked about the fact that in agency you were quite unusually quite data orientated. You then worked within a data business before moving over to Smart Compliance. So what was it that made you think, first of all, do you know what, this is a field I can immerse myself in, and this is a field that I think I can deliver some results in?
Yes, I think I've heard you start by caveat by saying that I was the person that used to get a colleague to sit my AML and GDPR 12-month training.
Because you were so shit at it.
Because I hated it that much. I'll give a big shout out to Geraldine right now. She was my little office rock at Davis Tate, and she did my training for me. Thanks, GB. It was an interesting one. So I'm all about the people, right? And when you meet someone, I think, oh, I could work with them. And it all came around full circle for me. So the owner of the business that I work for now, which is Smart Compliance, which is of course powered by Lifetime Legal. Lifetime Legal is owned by a chap called Rob. Yeah. Who ironically set up the first ever conveyancing panel company in the UK in 1997.
This is Rob Helston, right?
Rob Sendall.
Rob Sendall, sorry.
Called Live. We use Live at Romans. So
the circle is complete.
The circle came around. We worked with Live Conveyancing when I was at Romans, and others. But Rob has worked with Romans for many, many, many years. And I met... So basically someone else called me and said, look, Rob's looking to launch Smart Compliance and an AML solution as a standalone from the conveyancing. And I've told him that he needs to speak to you to launch it. Very flattering. It's lovely. It's like, okay, cool. So I don't want to have anything to do with conveyancing. But had a conversation
the word
with
that
Rob.
sends shivers down every estate agent's spine.
It's the C word.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it, not in a bad way, C word. There's some incredible conveyances, but that didn't float my boat, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, but I'll have a chat. Yeah, I'd love to meet Rob anyway, because I've never met him.
Well, because you and I were talking at the time, right, as mates. You and I were having a bit of a chat because you were in a bit of a funny place at the time. You had a lot of opportunities. Yeah. You had a lot of agents being like, come back, come back. And obviously suppliers left, right and centre throwing opportunities at you. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it was
people. I met Rob and
led.
it just, even AML, and I was like, oh my God, am I even contemplating going into compliance and AML? But I met Rob. I went to their original office. We've now moved. There was a bit of a buzz when I walked into the office. Like, okay, cool, all right, like this. And then sat down with Rob in the meeting room. Well over, I can't remember how long we were in there. Well over an hour, and we just got on. We just talked and talked and talked. And you just meet people and you just think, hey, I want to work with you.
Yeah.
I got his vision for smart compliance. I loved, the biggest thing for me was, because no one else was doing it at that point, was passing the cost on to the clients. And bear in mind, solicitors and conveyancers have been doing that for years, right?
Yeah.
And charging the buyer or the seller
your
for
search,
their AML check.
yeah.
And I just got it, and I just thought, yeah, this has got something in it. It's different. It had so many sort of USPs from my research and from what I could tell to other AML providers. The biggest, which we're going to come on to shortly. And yeah, it just sort of floated my boat. But it was more that I really just wanted to work with Rob and give that.
And see out that vision.
Yeah, and work on this project with him. And it took off more than we could ever have hoped for.
So when he was building out, was that when we already knew there was legislation coming down the line that was gonna formalise that, or?
Well, the AML, that was all. That hasn't. I mean, there's been some changes.
Actually, because sales has been in place for a while, hasn't it? It's only lettings. So lettings. I'm a bit of a sales ignoramus since we shut our sales department back in 2020. We knew they were going to do something
with lettings,
yeah,
but we knew it wouldn't be a full AML check initially.
Yeah.
So obviously they've launched the financial sanctions checks, which is managed by a different governing body, the OFSI. Our opinion is the first stage to becoming a full AML check. It's incredible how it isn't with lettings, because it's actually quite easy. Probably shouldn't say this, but it's actually quite easy to launder money through.
I would say lettings lends itself more to it than sales transactions, personally.
Interesting that they've only just done like the first step of it.
And also because you've got solicitors in there as well already. I mean, I always found the sales AML stuff on agents a bit weird, that you've got lawyers in there already obligated to do that stuff, supposedly. But anyway, but no, lettings does make a lot of sense. So, I mean, obviously, that was... So how long ago is it Smart Compliance? 2?
2.5.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
So 2.5 years, loved Rob, loved the vision, come on board, really grown your team, and it's great to see you guys flourish and thrive. Now, tech has always been a threat, and we're now in this insane new era of AI and LLMs and everything else that they can do and claim to do, and where we think they're going. Now, does that worry you? Does it worry you that you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and there's going to be a tech company that goes, we've got this, guys, click a button, all done, 30 seconds, £5? No?
Absolutely not worried about that. One day I really hope it does happen.
Yeah.
But my God, this country
after you've retired and
sold out.
Been given shares in the business and
no, absolutely not. And I think it's something we talk about a lot. And yes, do we embrace AI and tech in this? Absolutely. Of course we do. We use a lot of tech, but one of our strap lines is not just tech, because we are very proud of the fact that we are a human service that provides a end-to-end AML solution for estate agents, which tech can't do alone.
No, look, I think as suppliers to the industry, I feel like you should kind of practice what you preach, right? So, with Depository, we preach streamlining, automation. Yep. That's been at the very core of what we've built into the back end of our business in terms of building out accounts and invoice generation and that integrating into Xero and go cardless and all this sort of stuff. So we've got a really lean operational business from the offset. Like I said, I think it's really important that you practice what you preach. And I think another part of that journey is the vast majority of agents are still human-led businesses.
Yeah.
There is this still very firm belief that people buy from people. And so, yeah, I think you know, generally what you're selling into a business at the moment is tools to help the humans be better. Whether that's better insights, growing the capacity, capability, whatever that is. So I think, at the same time that, those are the kind of values that...
And you look at the tech that has advanced in the compliance world. You've got things like facial recognition now, biometric checks. Amazing. That you don't need to walk into an estate agent anymore with your passport and a driving license.
And that was always always the crazy bit of those, right? It's
so
like...
a lot of the heavy lifting, and again, the processes have been streamlined, made so much better with the technology that's there. PEPs and sanctions checks. Gone are the days where you've got to physically research every single buyer to check if they are a PEP and figure it out on Google somehow. If you're dealing with someone that maybe you shouldn't be, or a politically exposed person, that's all done now using the tech. The sanctions check takes seconds.
So what can't the tech do? Because there's a lot of bold claims out there, right? Whether it's tech, AI, whatever. There's a lot of bold claims out there. Sometimes it's optimism. Sometimes we know it's just downright misleading. If I'm an agent sat listening to this and I'm sat there going, yeah, but hold on, I just had an AML demo yesterday for this platform and they've said it is 100% digital, it's 100% compliant, and it's peanuts. So why? Okay. What in AML? And then let's focus on maybe the sales side first, and then you can expand if similar or different points applicable to lettings. Within compliant sales AML, where is the disconnect between what tech can handle and humans need to?
When either somebody gets flagged up as a PEP or a SIP, so a special interest person. And
just roughly an idea what kind of percentage that is? Like 5%, 10%?
Okay, so the percentage of
just ballpark
cases that we put through into our enhanced due diligence team is shockingly 48%.
Whoa!
And to put that into perspective,
as you guys have probably guessed, like that was not me teeing up Amy to blow your guys' minds. No. It's like, hey, we've teed up this nice soundbite. I was genuinely thinking that was going to be like single-digit numbers. That is wow.
And to put that into perspective, we're carrying out over 25,000 individual ID checks each month, and we hover anywhere between 10 to 15,000 compliance packs a month. So it's a good average, if that makes sense. Just shy of 50% requires some form of human intervention to make sure everything's up straight. And also then don't forget that actually it is the agent's responsibility to make sure that you've got everything. So that human touch, okay, even if we get to the point where AI can do everything, and I'll come on to why it can't in a minute, but if it could, the agent still has that responsibility to read through it and check actually, it is all there, because the responsibility sits with the agent, not AI. You can't take AI to court if you know. So I think there's a long way to go. Now the biggest, so within that 48%.
I mean, not dissimilar to how I caution landlords, right? Landlords often misperceive the fact that whilst they pay a letting or property management company to deal with XYZ, they are still fundamentally the responsible party. It is their responsibility to understand and check that their agent is doing everything that they should be doing.
Exactly that. With AML, the responsibility sits with the estate agent. And that won't change for as long as HMRC leave it the way it is. But within that 48%, yes, someone could flag up as a PEP, a SIP, fine. We have to do some research on that person, find out who they are, why they're a SIP. They could have been in prison, they could have been in prison for a bit of fraud, bit of money laundering. You'd be amazed how often we find that, and that's all a bit awkward. And then you've got the really simple cases that require human intervention, which are things like probates, power of attorneys, trust sales, companies. if someone has got married since they bought the house, likelihood is their title deeds are going to have the maiden name on it. We then need to get a marriage certificate to prove that they are married, and because the ID says Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but the title deeds say Mr. Smith and Mrs. Byfield. So, okay, go find a bit of AI that can magic up a marriage certificate for me right now. Until this country...
they've told I mean, I imagine you probably get this a little bit as well. Someone's instructed an agent without telling them that there's 2 or 3 other people that are also on the title deeds.
Yeah.
That's my favourite one.
Until you download the title
when we have landlords, we always buy the title register, and it's like, Sue, there's 3 other people on this title register. Oh, do you need to talk to them? Yeah,
they
need to sign the terms. They need to do their
the sanctions check, exactly. That.
Oh, but I deal with everything. That's fine. They can literally tell us that we never need to talk to them again, but as long as they sign on the dotted line and do what we need compliance-wise. But I always find that one fascinating.
Yeah. And,
do you need that info?
Yeah, we do. Always.
Yes.
And, if you look at, what's required generally on what do we ask for daily from clients? Wills, marriage certificates, death certificates, grant of probates, power of attorney documents, care home letters. It's endless. Yeah. None of that stuff is digitised.
No, and it's really nuanced, right?
Yeah, right.
And also how you handle that conversation with different people. Yeah. Some people, I'm sure, are like, "Cool, here you have X, Y, Z," and I bet you get quite a bit of "Why the fuck do you need that?"
Yeah, and even the land registry isn't fully digitised yet.
Yeah.
How many properties do we still have in this country? I'd actually love to know this figure. Chris Watkin, if you can find that out, that'd be great. But how many properties in this country are not actually on the digital land registry yet, because they've still got the title, because they've been in their house 50 years and they've still got the original title deeds and plan.
Do you know what, on top of that, it'd be also interesting to know how many records digitally sit in limbo between completion happening and the public database being updated.
Well, the land registry,
we had one today.
Up to 2 years behind.
I mean, what? So, we did one today. Bobby, our head of admin at Base, emailed me because she was like, "Oh, we've got a guarantor. Search the database, but accordingly it's owed to someone else." But she sent me this. Sure enough, she bought it a month ago. And I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
That won't be on land registry for at least 6 months. I didn't know it was up to 2 years.
And we need to get the solicitor confirmation. So it's endless, and that I think it's great. So the tech is wonderful, with what it does, with how it can do the facial recognition. You hold your phone over your passport, it reads a little magic chip in your passport. Brilliant. But fundamentally, if we run a check, someone flags as a SIP, yes, they've been in prison for fraud. This does happen quite regularly, by the way, or they've been in prison for another reason. We have to then research that person, find out why they were in prison, what they've done. Would it therefore mean that the agent's got to raise a SAR? We're then guiding the agent through that whole process without tipping off their client, because they can't. So it's a whole thing. You cannot do an AML check purely with tech, or even now without tech. So I'm not sitting here. You absolutely need tech.
You need tech, but
we're not there as a country. We're so far behind.
Delegate it all to tech.
And until the land reg is fully digitised, until we've got marriage certificates, death certificates, all on some central government system. Yeah. Even people's wills.
So like you said, it really comes back to the agent, right? Because like you said, whatever you guys do, it's still the onus of the agent, and regardless whether it's you guys or another AML provider, it's still the responsibility of the agent to make sure that everything done meets the legal requirements. But equally, also, as is often the case with when you've got a competitive marketplace of different providers, it's understanding where that value falls. And you can go for a digital only option if it's considerably cheaper, but you need to be on the very, very clear understanding of what you are taking on board, everything you guys have talked about and the nuance of that and how it's handled. And like you said, importantly, the fact that the person is not alerted, because potentially if you're going to be flagging a potentially criminal activity or whatever it is,
And don't get me wrong, we found terrorists, we found people who've done horrific things and been in prison, and the agents. I think that the one thing that I love what we do that again makes my heart sing a little bit is when we give that support to an agent that is on the end of the phone going, "Oh my God, what do I do? Because we failed a pack, we've sent it to them with why we failed it. And they immediately pick up the phone to us. You know, we've got a MLRO kind of helpline, literally. They speak to someone who's qualified, ICA qualified. What do I do? We can help them then raise the SAR. We can talk them through it. You know, and until you've raised the SAR, until you've got a response back from the National Crime Agency, you've got no idea whether you should continue that business relationship with that person. So then you're just in this big limbo land. You know, I think it's quite scary sometimes when I speak to our escalations team and you kind of find out, okay, give me an exciting story from today, and you're like, oh.
It comes back to that thing, doesn't it? Though I think, you know, whether you're an agency looking at what your delivery is and what you genuinely offer your clients, whether it's sales, lettings, you know, whatever, whether you're a supplier, I think it's, you know, ultimately when you're picking those partners, it's about figuring out exactly what it is you want from it, and more often than not, once you understand the true complexity and the nuance of most areas, you start to realise that price and value are two very different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so cheap things, cheap does not mean necessarily good value. Can mean quite the opposite, and equally expensive doesn't necessarily mean poor value. I mean, it can do. Both of those things can mean those things, but understanding exactly what it is that you ring fence and mitigate and resolve by choosing that partner.
Yeah, it's super important, and I think we very much, I think, pitch ourselves as we become your compliance department.
Yeah.
If you're an agent, you know, your big nationals, although we do work with a couple of the national companies, and that's great. But because of their volumes, they also do need a compliance department kind of managing everything we're throwing back in at them.
Yeah.
But, you know, your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches, they don't have, yes, they have their MLRO and sometimes a deputy. But to be able to give that support and that, you know, give us a call if you get, you know, they'll often ring us and be like, I've got this situation, what do I do?
And again, you guys are the experts. You guys are the ones seeing this on scale.
Yeah.
And seeing it at scale, how to resolve it. Like you said, you guys have seen some pretty epic things, but most of your clients will at best have seen 1 or 2 of those kind of epic flags. So you know, area of expertise, area of knowledge. I mean, I think we've had quite an exciting little dance around compliance there. And listen, at the top of this, when I said roughly an hour's talk, just to be clear, we're 53 minutes in right now.
This is good.
And we are still waffling free. So there you were, worried we would struggle to meet an hour. I told you we often run over. So look, we've talked about the career, we've talked about the journey. I wanna get more over to what I consider kind of the softer side of work and people and community and stuff. So I want to touch really briefly, I don't want to talk about it too much, but I want to talk really briefly, and you touched on it at the start of the talk, about a little bit about your experience coming out.
Okay.
I know you hate that phrase, but because when did that happen roughly?
So I started to realise 1920-ish. So
1920. You have aged. You have aged phenomenally.
Fabulous
I want
Botox.
that skin routine, bitch.
I mean, come on. When I was about 1920-ish, and I've said it again,
2019, 2020. I've now caught on to what he's actually trying to say.
I mean, I say things weird. It's fine. I started to realise that I wasn't feeling kind of particularly great about men, and I had a boyfriend at the time, and it just wasn't feeling right. Didn't feel, I hate using the word normal, but I didn't feel normal. I didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. I didn't connect with it.
I don't think you need to necessarily elaborate more than that.
It's just, you can't, and you can't kind of explain the feelings. It's just a bit strange. And then throughout my university years, and then left university, and I think I got to just shy of being 21, and I was like, something is not right here. Oh,
hold on, sorry. We're not even talking 2019, 2020. We're not talking 1920 the year. We're talking 1920 age. Sorry, I'm repealing this back.
Yeah.
My understanding. Okay. Yes. Scene set.
Absolutely. So, and then it's a really weird one, because you look back at it and you just think, I kick myself still for not dealing with it earlier in life, because I think it's...
But hindsight's a
put myself
motherfucker though,
through
right?
a lot of mental trauma, kind of figuring it all out and pushing myself to be with men. You know, it's not a fun time of life, and I just think...
But it's not an uncommon story, Baze. I mean, I doubt you had many gay or LGBTQ
none.
people to identify with, to communicate with, to... You know.
None. And it was only when I started working in Soho that then I was suddenly exposed to this...
Hi!
high gay scene. And also I was working bang in the middle of it on Soho Square. And...
Yeah, we used to go for very dirty nights out. Across the road from the first bar I used to run in Soho was a club called Substation Soho on Dean Street, which was...
Yeah.
That was a proper gay bar.
It just, something twigged, and then kissed. Sounds a bit. Is that Katy
Kissed a
Perry?
girl, I liked it.
Kissed a girl, liked it. You know, it's standard. And then something literally, but after I kissed a girl, literally everything made sense.
Epiphany.
It was like this light bulb moment of, oh my god, I'm gay. What the hell? Why did no one tell me? Because then the first thing I did was obviously tell my closest friends, and they were like, "Oh, we knew." And it's like, you could have told me, like, help me out here, guys.
You brought me in on this, please.
I'm sort of some weirdo, you know.
That's hilarious.
And then just everything started making sense, and
were you and did it move quite quickly from there in terms of like, it seemed like your friends were generally very accepting and kind of like, well, duh.
Yeah, friends were amazing. Family was a little bit more.
Family a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, did you kind of, for want of a better phrase, protect them from it for a little bit until you were kind of ready for that conversation, or did that happen fairly quickly after you kind of had your light bulb moment?
Yeah, it was fairly quickly because I just wasn't in a good place before that, and I think it just, I had to do something about it. As soon as I realised, then it was like, okay, all systems go. Yeah. You know, I didn't want to then hide who I was. Even back then, you know, we're talking 24 years ago. So yeah, I started going to Pride events. I started, you know, going out a lot to gay bars, which at that point, we had one in Reading at that point, which was fabulous. But
and when you came into agency, did you feel any need to kind of rein that in at all? Or were you, I mean, because that was still fairly early in that journey.
Yeah, a little bit at first, but not so much. Like, I remember, and I spoke about this on the Two Russells podcast, that literally we were on a night out, and my boss at the time, he was a great guy, and we were, you know, just to sit at the bar, and he was like, you do know it's all right if you're gay. There's no issues, or whatever. Yeah. And that was it. That was all that was said. Yeah. Done. And then
nice.
It was just easy. I think everyone knew anyway. It's not something I think I...
But it's nice to hear those stories, because I think there is, you know, there are those horror stories, you know, where people are treated differently or poorly or excluded or squeezed out. I think with most of the friends I know, I mean, obviously, like I grew up in a family where my mum was the most accepting person in the universe. We had friends who were poor, we had friends who were rich, we were friends of every different denomination, religion and sexual orientation. We had some outrageously camp gay friends over the years who, literally, you know, you could have put them all in a sitcom and you'd have been like, this is way too over the top. So, yeah, it's always funny for me growing up. I mean, I had that dichotomy in that I had that upbringing at home. I then obviously spent 10 years predominantly at a boys-only boarding school with very archaic attitudes towards a lot of that. I'd be fascinated to see what that kind of dialogue and internal culture is at schools now. But I know back then, you know, I mean, my God, you know, it was one of the common kind of insults. You'd say, oh, so gay.
I still say so gay all the time. Yeah. So gay.
Now
and people look at me and they're like, oh, and I'm like, well, I'm gay. I can say that.
I know, I tend to use it like, that's gay.
I see it because I am gay. I'm allowed to say it. Like, it's...
You can use it disparagingly. I can't. I use it as a celebration. Hey, that sounds gay. So yeah, but no, it's really interesting. But you know, you do hear those stories. But I think the common theme of everyone I've known, and whether they were outrageously confident and comfortable with it from an early age, or confronted it much later on. I mean, you've started at the early part of your adult life. We're not gonna talk on behalf of Vicky, but I know her journey. I know some wonderful people. There's a really lovely lady who Anne and I met probably 10, 15 years ago training, who used to do our triathlon training club together, and we formed a really good bond with. And I know, she was massively inspired by Anne and her ownership of who she is and how she lives her life. To the point where that inspired her to come out. She had, but she carried that much longer. She was probably 35, 40 by the time she came out, and now married and living her best life ever. And I'm so happy that you guys are on that journey too.
I think it's really interesting because I always get asked, like, is coming out a thing now? And I try and put myself, like, if I was 19, 20 years old now, the biggest traumatic part of it was telling my family.
The family.
And I still think now, even for kids, if they don't realise when they're very younger, and the parents know, and it's just almost instantly kind of spoken about in a lot of families now, which is fantastic, it's great. But actually there are still the people that go through that absolute trauma of having to come out to their family and friends, and it is, to this day, and it still will be, the scariest thing I have ever done.
Look, I mean, I think anything, and now as a parent myself, to think that my child could tell me anything about themselves that wasn't some horrendous thing they've done, but was something about themselves as a person that could make me possibly love them less, or God forbid stop loving them, or stop, but to have that, to carry that burden and that fear and that, that. And look, the reason it is most difficult, right, is because they're the most important people in your lives. That's the reality of the matter. You don't tend to give a shit about the opinions of people you don't give a shit about, because who cares, right? But the ones you love, the ones that have made who you are and helped you become the person you are. The thought that you might disappoint them, the thought that, God forbid, it's even worse than that you might.
It's just acceptance.
Yeah.
It's just that being accepted just for who you are, and it doesn't matter.
And those journeys are often really difficult.
Yeah, and you still I still hear horror stories now, and your just heart goes out to them, people, who question why we still have prides. It's like, I'm just like, oh!
Yeah, I do. And I sit firmly in the ally camp. I've obviously never been directly part of one of your wonderful communities, but I very much sit in that ally camp, and I'm always, when you see those comments, it's off.
Yeah.
Yes, we absolutely still need that shit. But no, I think that, thanks for sharing that. And I think, if you work in this industry and you're battling with anything about not just your sexuality, but about anything, seek out groups, seek out people, talk, find those people you can open with. It almost certainly won't be people that you're super close to, because that is really fucking scary. But go out and find people. And I think what's great in our profession now, there are some very outspoken characters within our industry who totally own that. Yeah. Who I know are 1,000,000% open to anyone reaching out to them and being like, I have no fucking idea how I handle this. But you've also got organisations like Freehold on LinkedIn. You've got an LGBTQ within property group. What's really lovely now is there are some really good, strong groups that can give you the support and advice and nurture. More importantly, people who've been there, lived it, done it. It's not just some fucking tagline or some, help phrase that they've got off Insta. They've lived and breathed it. So if you're struggling with anything like this, just reach out to someone. Just try and start that conversation. And like I said, quite often that conversation will be with someone you don't have a relationship with. And so, talking about groups that have grown into really good support networks leads us really nicely onto the Women in Estate Agency.
Yes.
So for those who have been living under a rock the last 3 years or so, what for? Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah.
It's about that, isn't it? Talk to me. What is Women in a State Agency? Why do we need Women in a State Agency?
Oh God, where do you start?
Because I mean, why do we need Pride anymore? Like, why do we need Women in a State Agency?
I think Verona summed it up beautifully a couple of years ago at the conference, and we want to get to the point where we don't need Women in the State Agency anymore. Liana and Claire set the group up. It was just a Facebook group, another Facebook group that was started during lockdown for support. Let's bit of camaraderie. Let's, support and champion women, going through the same shit as we all do every day. And it just grew and grew and grew to the point where obviously then the first conference happened. That was insane. And I think at that point,
so the first conference was 23?
So the fourth one is 26.
Because 25...
22.
Oh, was it? 22.
22, 23, 24, 25. Oh, no,
I thought we've
22.
done 3. Next one's 4th, right?
22. So 22 was the first.
So I said we've done 3. I'm not even in.
You're a big part.
Yeah. I think I've bought one of the very first tickets.
I think you literally the first person to sponsor, first person to buy tickets, and and you're
having asked if I was allowed to buy a ticket for a Women in a State Agency conference, so that was my first
Absolutely.
question.
It's just incredible. I think our first conference, I wasn't on the committee at that point, but I went out for dinner. Liana was determined to recruit me to start building the sponsorship side of things and the relationships with suppliers. And it was just very clear after that first conference, we were like, holy crap, we might be onto something here that is a very different event and a very different community to all the other sort of fabulous property events.
That first conference will, for a very long time, if not forever, live rent-free in my head as something that I felt was a seismic transformative shift in terms of not only looking at women in property. I think what was really fascinating about the conferences that you guys have succeeded in delivering for the last 3 years is you changed the topic of conversation entirely. And with the greatest of respect, many of you out there will know there are few bigger conference halls than yours truly. I do love an industry event. And Simon Whale is stewing in his own juices right now. Yeah. That's a horrible image.
I love them.
Absolutely love them. But what I absolutely loved about what you guys have done and continue to do, like I said, is you've changed the topic of conversation, and it's not just about the fact that it's about women, but what I loved, and I think it's probably largely because of that and how you guys tend to approach things and the experiences that you go through your life getting to where you are, was the conversation went away from what I consider transactional state agency. Like, here's what you need to know to land 10 more instructions. Here's what you need to know to get to increase your fee by 50%. You guys haven't to date, thank fuck, had a single talk like that. It is about culture, it is about attitude, it's about psychology, it is about who we want to be when we turn up to work, whether that's an employee, whether that's a founder, a director, whatever it is. And it is, you guys have talked about the battles and the horrendous things that some people have overcome. But I think also this running theme is about this kind of thing, about lifting each other up, about championing one another, which I've believed in generally. I think that's something just as human beings we could all generally do with a lot more, whether it's work, home, whatever. I think if we all spent a lot more time and energy lifting each other up and bigging each other up rather than moaning about X, Y, Z and trying to pick at shit and take things down, I think we'd all be a lot happier, healthier, wealthier, everything. But I love the fact that you guys, like I said, really kind of changed that conversation. And I there are some people I know who will be fuming at me even asking this question when we're talking about a women event. But why is it important that some of the ticket base at these events is men.
Yeah, and we don't restrict that in any way.
No.
When you order a ticket, you don't have to say male or female. We don't caveat that in any way. We want just people at our event, humans. And I think you kind of nailed on the head why. We're not about... We're all about championing, supporting. You know, the women that come to the event are looking to progress their careers, are, you know, looking for that support, that inspiration, that motivation. We want an equal playing field at the end of the day. That's all we want. We want to champion women to go for those promotions, to get to board level, to be directors, if they want to, if they choose to. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some amazingly successful women who just love valuing, and that's what they do, and they just want to be the best version of themselves when they go to work and learn and grow. And that's okay. You know, I didn't start valuing for a very long time because I just enjoyed selling houses too much and doing the neg side of it. I didn't want the pressure of almost, you know, listing, but then I started doing that, and then I love that as well. But it's about just that support network that we have, and obviously men will never be in the Facebook group because it's that safe space.
And nor should they be.
It's that safe space. But the conference is, no, we're one industry, and let's all come together and learn all the things you've mentioned, but have the most uplifting day. Yes, we'll make you cry, but we'll also make you laugh. We'll have something energetic going on after lunch so that people aren't falling asleep. You know, it's a very different day. And the one
beatboxing and Lucy Noonan special spring
dancing,
to mind. I mean, I'm probably missing out the third one, but two of those.
You know, next year's next level.
Brass bands doing acrobatics with lasers. You heard it here first. Well, you heard it with Toby Martin first, but you heard it here second.
There's a lot of surprises next year. And I think it's just a day. And then when you walk out of the theatre in the breaks into that, you know, the sort of the bigger exhibition room, it's so
the
special.
Conversations you guys spark is, again, like nothing I see at any other conference.
Yeah.
Every other break at a conference, it's, I'll go and pick up some free merch. I'll go and catch up my mates. I'll go and have a fag outside or go and grab a beer, depending on the time of day or whatever. Gross overstatement, of course.
Yeah.
There are some more conference-orientated activities going on, but let's not split it. Like toilet, drinks, fag, mates, merch is probably the 5 biggest motivations in most of the conferences. Categorically, the thing I've witnessed with your guys, I have never seen a conference, what's the word I'm looking for, inspire and kind of motivate people to instantly have amazing conversations. Yeah. Whether that's people sharing something they've been through or something they've achieved, or, you know, an understanding of psychology. I mean, bringing it back round, you know, one of the reasons, you know, when you guys first launched the conference, and I very quickly messaged to be like, am I allowed to buy a ticket? And got a very quick, like, absolutely, of course you can buy a ticket, and bought one. You know, and the handful of guys like me who did buy tickets for the very first conference, I think there was about 20-25 of us at the first one. And, you know, I think really interesting, you know, there were a few guys on socials at conferences, whatever, who were like, what? Why are you going to a women's status event? And all I can say is, like, the events I've been to so far, and what I have began to learn and understand, has made me a better husband, a better father, a better business partner, a better leader, a better friend. The things I have learned, whether that is more biological, like understanding a little bit more about the perimenopause and menopause and what that can mean, and its different things to women, and psychologically, emotionally, hormonally, everything mind-blowing. You know, and that's helped me understand a bit more, a business partner who's been going through that, a wife who's about to go into that. You know, understanding probably the most shocking thing to me has not been those epic stories that we've heard on stage. But I think the thing that has resonated most with me and has signalled that absolutely these conferences and these events and these groups are still needed and that we've still got a fucking long way to go, is not the fact that someone stands on stage, some amazingly brave woman stands on stage and shares some horrendous story that they have lived through and come out the other side of. That in itself is bad enough, but sat in those rows surrounded by women in those areas outside, what has been astonishing to me is how many women have a very similar story. And that, to me, has been one of the, in many ways, unsettling, but really important parts of that is, as a guy, just teaching you to open your eyes and open your fucking ears to listen to this stuff. Because, you know, off the back of this, I have nudged, you know, I have probed my wife and my sister and my niece to better understand experiences they've had throughout their life. And I have heard stories I wouldn't wish anyone to ever hear. Yeah, I think, you know...
It is a conversation starter, and I think one of the things that I'm super proud of that's come from Women in Agency is actually, and let's flip reverse it for a second, because yes, we're all about getting women empowered and achieving and lifting them up. But one of the things that I am so proud of is that Ben set up the All Boys Club.
Yeah.
Because for me, actually, you know, men's mental health, let's flip reverse this a bit, is just as precious and important. And for a lot of men, they struggle to talk, to open up, to share.
Yeah.
And I think actually what has been insanely a proud moment, I think, for all of us on the board is, you know, actually opening up these conversations to people who, so they don't feel scared to talk. And I think for me that's massive. Like when Ben set up the Old Boys, I was like, oh, thank God, finally. They've got a space they can go and talk.
For me, it comes back to this singular truth, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about academics, a profession, or what we've just been touching on. You don't know what you don't know, right? So unless you put yourself in a position where, like I said, your eyes and ears can be opened to this stuff, you really don't understand what you don't know. And like I said, I thought I understood what a lot of women had to face and what some of the challenges were. Wow, was I wrong? Wow, was my understanding naive and simple, as so many men's understanding of that is. But like you said, it's also seeing people be brave, seeing people talk openly, seeing the emotions that have been shared on stage and more importantly off stage at the conferences, and looking at, like you said, what men can learn from that. And I think that has helped conversation, like you say, with Ben Madden and you know, the launching of the Boys Club and the things that, you know, I'm trying to support, me and others are trying to support Ben in achieving, you know, in having those conversations. You know, and it's really interesting. I don't think Ben will mind me saying this. You know, I think he's on a really interesting journey doing this because it's also forcing him to confront a lot of these things. And, you know, him and I have had some fascinating chats and WhatsApps over the last couple of years around what's happening around that. So, look, I think I want to say thank you to you guys and keep it up.
Yes.
Keep going.
Bring on 2026.
Yeah, can't wait. What is it, March?
March the 5th.
March the 5th. So March the 5th, put it in your motherfucking diaries if it's not already there. It will be London-based again.
It's at the same venue this year. So
same venue.
Yes.
So the Pullman Hotel near King's Cross. That was a brilliant venue. So I think it's good that you guys have stayed there. Good for transport links and well set up and everything. So male, female. If you haven't been, go. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the 5th of March next year in your diary, block out the whole day and the night, and maybe the next morning. Book that in now, and then the next date you're going to put in your diary is 26th of September.
26th of September.
26th of September. You might even want to set an alarm for like 5 to midnight on the 25th of September, because I don't know exactly when they're pushing it live, but that is the date ticket sales start for the conference.
Yes.
I think it's going to be another sellout year. I think the tickets are going to sell even faster than they have done before. So don't fuck around. If you want to be there, be there. I think we're going to wrap it up there. We have, having worried about struggling, we've done an hour 20.
Come on.
So we've kept people busy. Hopefully, guys, some of the bits we've resonated with you today sparks a conversation, a thought, a process. If anything, act on it. Reach out to Amy or I if you want to ask questions. If you want to know more about the Women in Estate Agency Conference with Amy, they've got an amazing board. I know I'm going to miss people out, but we've got Verona as chair, we've got Kirsty as the new vice chair, and then alongside you, obviously we've got Leanna, Laporta Brown, and
two Claires,
and
Claire Hughes, Claire Yates,
Claire,
Kyla from Paramount, Catherine, and
SJ,
Shanice. I'm going to miss someone out now. Ian McKenzie, of course, the amazing Ian McKenzie, and I've definitely missed some people.
So guys, whoever, any one of us, if you want to find out anything, you want to find out more about the conference, go on the website, go on the socials, find out a bit more, contact people, whether it's a boy or a girl, and you want to find out more about the experience, find out more about it, but definitely put it in your diary for next year. Babes, as always, been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Could talk a lot more. In fact, we're going to go and carry on talking over tacos now, so hee hee. But thanks so much, Sonny. It's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, thank you for joining us, and tune in sometime soon to hear from some other fabulous guests and me waffling on and swearing a bit. Bye!